Hi students. Today we are going to start one of the most interesting subject, that is history. From history, today we will start nationalism in India, which is one of my favorite lesson. Uh, Definitely, as it is related to India, many new points and new concepts and features of different kinds of movements we will know in this lesson. So here in this poster you can see some protagonists of this movement can be reflected here. Gandhiji, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, definitely Savarkar, whom you can see here, and Lokmanya Tilak was not part of non-cooperation movement and civil disobedience movement, but still there were indirectly these people were connected to this movement. The ways of Gandhiji and the ways of Lokmanya Tilak definitely it was different, but still the intention of both these very famous popular leaders was same. Somebody once asked, what is the difference between the movements led by Gandhiji and Lokmanya Tilak? The answer can be given. Lokmanya Tilak asked a big sacrifice from few people. Few people have to die for the nation. That was the idea of Lokmanya Tilak. And whereas if you go to Mahatma Gandhiji, he asked very small sacrifice from very big amount of people. So that was the different ideologies of Gandhiji and Lokmanya Tilak. When Gandhiji came to India in 1915 from Africa, he gave a different way to the people to fight against Britishers. As you know very well, our India was ruled by Mughals first. Then Britishers came, and on the name of development, by different ways, they were just torturing and absorbing the resources of our India. Many books are written on this. Will Durant has written one book, The Case for India, in which with numbers he has written how these Britishers looted our India. So there are many reasons behind it, why the nationalism was increasing, growing in our India, why was unrest among the people against Britishers in our India, and what people did against it, that we are going to see in this lesson. In this lesson, maximum our focus will be on two movements, that is civil disobedience movement and non-cooperation movement. Before starting this lesson, first I would like to make it very clear to you that Gandhiji has led many movements, as you know very well. But in his life, these two movements are considered to be the biggest movement in which maximum people, thousands, lakhs of people participated. Among them, first was non-cooperation movement along with Khilafat movement, and second, civil disobedience movement. Definitely, Quit India movement was third movement, but that we are not going to study in this lesson. So this whole lesson deals with uh, non-cooperation movement and civil disobedience movement. So when Gandhiji started earlier, the first movement was non-cooperation movement and second was civil disobedience movement. So please make this very clear to yourself. And now let's start our lesson. First of all, please see this concept map. In this lesson, we are going to study these four topics. The first will be this, the First World War and Rowlatt Act and Khilafat movement. In this, we will see what was the idea of Satyagraha, what Gandhiji was thinking about Satyagraha, exactly what was his idea about Satyagraha, what was Rowlatt Act, and how non-cooperation movement began. It will be our first part. In second part, as non-cooperation movement was uh, as it was growing and flourishing, how people looked at it, what were the different ideas about this movement, that we will discuss in this second part, in which how the people, those who were living in town, they took or they get the understanding of this movement. Then what was the concept of this movement in countryside among the people, and the people those who were working in plantation, what was idea of Swaraj to them, that we will see in this second part, that is differing stands within the movement. So here these first two parts they deal with non-cooperation movement and are this third part towards civil disobedience movement. Here we will finish this, the Salt March and Civil Disobedience Movement. For our convenience, in short form, we'll call it CDM. Then what were the different interpretation of movement? How different people from different society, they were conceiving ideas of different kinds of uh, consideration of this movement. So that we will see. And then after that, we will see the limits of CDM. Limits of civil disobedience movement means uh, the people who participated in non-cooperation movement, they were not that much showed that much interest in civil disobedience movement. And then at last we will see some allegories, national songs and symbols. So let's start our first part of the lesson. Part 1, the First World War, Rowlatt Act and Khilafat movement. Our first point, 1.1, that is the First World War. First, let's discuss about this. As you know, in 1914, First World War started, and almost in 1918, end of the 1918, it got over. After First World War, what was the impact on the world that we are going to see in this first part? First of all, you can see here definitely, as all the income of the people it was given, or the product which they were taking from the farms, it was given to the soldiers, expenditure grew and it led to tax increment by custom duties and income tax. Britishers or all other countries, as they have spent a lot of money on warfare, that's why after First World War got over, they needed more and more money. How to take this money? So they introduced income tax, and they increased the custom duties. So that was the first impact of First World War. Second, prices doubled during 1913 to 1918. Then there was forced recruitment and supplies from villages. All these activities of Britishers, it angered the people. For as you know very well that in the war, on the front line, always Indian soldiers used to be there, and Britishers, they used to be standing behind. So to fight for Britishers, they did forced recruitment in our villages, and they took supplies forcefully from villages. It angered the people. Fourth reason, 1918 to 1919 and 1920 to 21, crops failure was there, and it was accompanied by an influenza epidemic. And then 12 to 13 million people died due to famines and epidemic, but government was not bothered about it. They were just thinking to conquer. That's why they were not having any kind of sympathy toward these people, and it was like a prologue for our national movement. So this was the anger by which Gandhiji took the benefit of this, and they utilized this anger against Britishers by non-violent way. So this is the first impact, the First World War. What was the impact of this that we have seen in this part? Now let's move towards the idea of Satyagraha. First, let me tell you exactly, definitely the idea of Satyagraha, or the way Gandhiji brought to India from Africa. In Africa also he did this experiment, and he was successful in that. That successful experiment of Satyagraha he brought to India. In 1915 he came to India. Uh, he gave a new way to the people to fight or to protest against oppressor. It was completely different way to fight against oppressor. So people liked it. And as I told you earlier, that this sacrifice was very small for the people. Instead of dying, if you are sitting somewhere with Gandhiji as a hartal, then it is easy for the people. That's why people like this, and they give a lot of response to Gandhiji. But behind this activity, what was the philosophy that we will see first? What was the idea of Satyagraha? The idea of Satyagraha emphasized the power of truth and the need to search the truth. Gandhiji believed and he suggested that if the cause was true and if the struggle was against injustice, then physical force was not necessary to fight the oppressor. Without seeking vengeance, revenge, or being aggressive, a satyagrahi could win the battle through non-violence. We can appeal the emotion of the oppressor and we can change his mind. That was the ideology of Gandhiji. By this struggle, truth was bound to ultimately triumph. With this belief and with this trust, Gandhiji just took the step, and on every step he got the success. So this was the idea of Satyagraha. For your record, as usual, you can take the screenshot of this. So it will be very easy. When Gandhiji came to India in 1915, before non-cooperation movement also, he led three very important movements. In 1916, he led the movement in Champaran. It was against oppressive plantation system where Britishers compelled the people from Champaran to plant whichever product or whichever product they want to cultivate in the farm. So against this, Gandhiji led a movement in Bihar, Champaran. Second movement was 1917. It took place in Kheda district. It was against revenue collection in crop failure. In this year, and it was a drought, the people from this Kheda district, they didn't get that much product from their farming. That's why they could not give the revenue. But still, Britishers, they were not worried about this. They were taking revenue forcefully. So Gandhiji again led one movement with these people against Britishers. And third movement, it was in 1918, Ahmedabad. Ahmedabad mill workers. For them, Gandhiji led this movement amongst cotton mill workers. So in this way, you can see three pictures are shown here. These three pictures, uh, chronologically, they are from 1916, 17 and 1918. So these three movements are also very important. Please keep this in your mind. Now here, you might have heard this word many times, the Rowlatt Act. It was the bone of contention. Actually, exactly what was this law that we'll see first. This law was imposed by Imperial Legislative Council, according to which you can repress political activities and detention of political prisoners for 2 years without trial. As Britishers came to know that the Indians, they are going to raise their voice against us, they started repressing political activities, and definitely political leaders, they were giving fire to this flame. That's why they started retaining them in the jails without trial in the court. So that was the Rowlatt Act. Definitely it was so much oppressive law, and that's why it became the bone of contention. It was applied in February 1919. So when this act was implemented, what was the reaction of the Indians to the Rowlatt Act? First of all, Gandhiji launched non-violent civil disobedience movement with Hartal on 6 April 1919. Please let me make you very clear with this. Non-violent civil disobedience movement also going to start in 1930. So that movement and this movement is different. Please don't get confused. So it was, we can say, trailer of civil disobedience movement. So that civil disobedience movement and this disobedience movement is completely different. But it was a trailer of that. So it was launched on 6 April by Gandhiji. What were the activities done in this moment? Rallies were organized in various cities. Workers went on strike in railway workshops and shops closed down. When all these things were going on, definitely Britishers were not silent. They thought if it goes on, it will be harmful for our government. So see here what was the reaction of British government. First of all, they feared that if this popular upsurge goes on, then communications such as the railways and telegraph would be disrupted, the British administration decided to clamp down on nationalists, and that's why they picked up local leaders from Amritsar, and Mahatma Gandhi was barred from entering Delhi. On 10th April, the police in Amritsar fired upon a peaceful procession, provoking widespread attacks on banks, post offices, and railway stations. Because of this violent activities, on 13 martial law was imposed, and on 13th April, infamous Jallianwala Bagh massacre took place, as you have heard about it. Uh, this Jallianwala Bagh, it was completely away from the city, urban area, and that's why the people, those who assembled there, many of them they had come there for Baisakhi fair. They didn't know about this martial law, and few people they had come there to protest against this Rowlatt Act. So when it was going on, people protest upon this government responded with brutal repression, seeking to humiliate and terrorize people. Satyagrahis were forced to rub their noses on the ground, crawl on the streets, and do salute to all sahibs. People were flogged, and villages around Gujranwala in Punjab, now in Pakistan, were bombed. Uh, when Gandhiji saw this, he felt definitely it was against his ideology, so he stopped this movement. He called off this movement, and in this way, the trailer of civil disobedience movement was called off because of these violent activities. When it got over, Gandhiji thought, until and unless we unite Hindus and Muslims, we cannot make a big movement in in our India. So first of all, we should unite Hindus and Muslims. And Gandhiji got the strength of this, and he thought he got the point once when 1918 Turkey lost the war. After that, humiliating treaties were done and humiliating conditions were put on Turkey, according to which caliphate, that is post of Khalifa, who is religious leader of Muslims, his post was under threat, and to save this, two brothers came forward to form a committee in Mumbai, which was called Khilafat Committee, under which the Khilafat movement started. So that we are going to start. Gandhiji thought now this is the time to get aligned with Muslims, and in this way, now on 1st August 1920, Khilafat movement and non-cooperation movement, they both started together. So what was Khilafat and non-cooperation movement? Let's see here. The First World War had ended with the defeat of Ottoman Turkey, and there were rumors that harsh peace treaty was going to be imposed on Ottoman Emperor, the spiritual head of the Islamic world, the Khalifa. To defend the Khalifa's temporal power, a Khilafat committee was formed in Bombay in March 1919. A young generation of Muslim leaders like the brothers Muhammad Ali and Shaukat Ali, who are called Ali brothers, they began discussing with Mahatma Gandhi about the possibility of a united mass action on the issue. Gandhiji saw this as an opportunity to bring Muslims under the umbrella of a unified national movement. And at the Calcutta session of Congress in September 1920, he convinced other leaders of the need to start a non-cooperation movement in support of Khilafat as well as for Swaraj. So in this way, along with Khilafat movement, non-cooperation movement was launched in 1920. So here you can see the picture of Ali brothers. Left side is Shaukat Ali and right side is Muhammad Ali, who were called Ali brothers. Why non-cooperation movement? Non-cooperation word, from word itself we will come to know what is the meaning of this. Gandhiji thought that if Britishers are living in this country and they can rule us because of our assistance, we are cooperating them to rule upon us. We are giving them help. and by different jobs we are working with them, and that's why they are able to rule our country. But if we take out this support, then they will not be able to rule us. That was the idea of Gandhiji. So we will not cooperate them. So in his famous book Hind Swaraj which was written in 1909, he said this. So how this non-cooperation movement should unfold. So in three stages, he used to describe this movement. In first stage, all the government servants, they should surrender titles that the government has awarded them. Second stage, all the civil servants, they should boycott the services, army, police, courts, and legislative councils, schools, and foreign goods. It should be boycotted. And third stage, in case the government used repression, a full civil disobedience campaign would be launched, which happened in 1930 after 10 years. And then, after the intense tussle between September and December among Congress leaders, whether to contest the election or not, non-cooperation movement was launched at the Congress session at Nagpur in December 1920. Please keep this date and place in your mind. This decision of non-cooperation movement was taken at Nagpur session in December 1920. All these three stages, people they don't have any problem, but there was one problem among about contesting the election. But after tussle, they came to know that this is a good idea, and that's why they accepted this. So in this way, non-cooperation movement started. Now, what were the different activities done in this non-cooperation movement? What was the idea about this non-cooperation movement in people's mind, and how the people conceive different ideas through this non-cooperation movement, that we will see in our next slide. So here it is the end of our first part. Next part we will see in our next period. I hope till here you might have understood everything. If you have any question, any query, you can write me in comment box. And if you have liked this video, please subscribe, share, and click on the notification bell. Thank you so much. Have a nice day.